Hey guys, welcome to Pete's Ghias. In this multi-part video series, I'll be installing a new wiring harness into my Karmann Ghia. Part 3 covers the right headlight harness and the dome light harness. Check it out. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2 yet, please go back and review so you don't screw up and light your Ghia on fire.
All right, so now I'm getting started on the passenger side front headlight wiring harness. And just a real easy way to tell these two ends apart is that the side that goes to the headlight and the turn signal is split. So that obviously goes to the front. So I'm going to tuck this down in the spare tire area for now, and then loop this around the support and get busy putting these wires in place. Okay, coming off the passenger side, the white wire plugs into the third from the right. This is the high beam wire on the fused side. Okay, next is the yellow wire, low beams, and that goes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the right next to the low beam wire from the driver's side. Kind of hard to mess this up. Just look at your diagram. Okay, next, the gray wire from the front right wiring harness. This is the wire to the running lights. Goes to terminal 57 on the light switch. All right, the black and green wire from the front right turn signal goes into the black and green Y splitter right here, and this will complete front and rear turn signals. Right here is the dome light harness. This includes the wiring and the grounds for the dome light up in the roof behind the windshield, the ground wires which run to the door switches, and it also has power to the speedometer and power from the ignition switch to the fuse block, these red and yellow wires. One is the battery side and one is the switch to power side. And I'm also adding this wire right here, which is a microphone wire. This is for my Bluetooth enabled radio, and I'm going to hide this tiny microphone up in the dome light. The radio did come with a microphone that is much larger and it's really obtrusive. It's going to be impossible to hide. So this is going to go inside the dome light.
I break out my fabric tape. This stuff is made for automotive wiring, and wrap and tape the microphone wire onto the harness.
All right, so here it is. I've got the microphone wire attached to the harness, and this wire is going to go up the A-pillar. This goes across under the trunk to the passenger side, and this loop of wire goes down the driver's side to the driver's side door.
I have a string threaded down the A-pillar into the trunk, attached to the harness with some painter's tape. It's easy to get snagged on the opening up into the pillar, so just take it slow and guide it with your hand. The ground wires for the door switches are fed down the A-pillar on the left and right side.
Okay, so the dome light wires are feeding through the top of the windshield. They come down here, down the A-pillar, and then the wire feeds through over for control for the vent, and it clips on right there where I'm pointing with my finger. So next all I have to do is install switch, door switch, along with rubber gasket that goes around it, and the screw, which is a 3.9 millimeter by 13 panhead Phillips screw. And obviously a friendly reminder, you're going to need 2 door switches, one on the driver's side as well. Don't forget it. Looking into this very tight area, the number 30 wire coming off the dome light harness attaches to the ignition switch, and that is the bottom tab on the back of the ignition switch. And then the yellow wire goes to number 15, which is on the right side of the ignition switch. It's an extremely tight area, accessible and hard to reach without twisting myself into a pretzel. Okay, let's make sure these are both on all the way. I've just repositioned the camera to get a close-up view of the bottom of the speedometer. There's a black wire which comes off the number 15 wire to the ignition switch, and this plugs into the very bottom of the speedometer, and this provides power to all of the speedometer lights.
On the other end of the harness, the yellow number 15 wire goes on the far right unfused side of the fuse box.
Next wire is number 30 wire to starter switch. This goes onto the unfused side of the fuse box on the left. And then this is the actual wire that powers the dome light. Plug this in right here on the fused side on the left, fuse box. And there's an extra wire coming off of here. And this wire is intended for the clock, but since I don't have a clock and I have a tachometer, I'm either going to tape this off or cut it off, but I haven't decided what to do yet. But I don't want to attach the tachometer directly to this because it would always be on, because this side of the fuse box is battery power and this is always hot. I'm just going to leave this side right now until I decide what to do with it. I have a few wires left to install right here that are lying in the bag. This first wire, this thick red wire, is the power line from the fuse box to the lighting switch. It goes into terminal 30 on the light switch. Plug that in, and then it goes to the unfused side of the fuse box on the left. Then from terminal 58 on the light switch, this gray wire to the third fuse over on the left onto the unfused side. So right now the parking lights for the front are wired into the light switch on terminal 57. That is not incorrect. That is a way to do it, and that's how wiring works. Instructs you to hook these wires up, but there is another way which I think is a better idea. So I'm going to take these out right now, and instead of wiring them into the light switch, I'm going to wire them into the fuse box, second and third from the left. So the reason I'm doing it this way is so that when you turn your lights on all the way, you're going to have running lights in the front and the rear, and I think that's a safer way to drive the car in modern day, because otherwise you just had headlights and no running lights in front, and that could confuse other drivers, and I just want to be visible on the road. Okay, next is the white and red wire that lights up the gauges. This plugs into 58B.
The red and white wire plugs into the gauge bulbs on the tach, or clock if you have one, the speedometer, and onto the back of the fuel gauge, which is not yet installed in my car because I don't have one yet.
A high beam wire plugs into the second from the right. And then on the back of the speedometer, the blue and white wire plugs into the high beam warning light.
Now that the light switch is fully wired, I can attach it to the dash. I reach through the hole for the radio, hold the switch in place, and on the other side, use this special part called the dash escutcheon, which is like a decorative screw and washer all in one. And I'm using this special tool to screw it in place.
All right, well, it's actually hard to tell, but I did clean up these wires somewhat. I unplugged them, rerouted them, plugged them back in again. So that's a big step forward. I may follow up at the very end with some zip ties just to bundle these wires together and make them look even better. But what's important is that they're in place.
As usual, this video is getting way too long, so we'll pick up in part 4 with the wiper harness and wiper switch, and modifications to the harness for a 2-speed 12-volt wiper motor. Become a subscriber so you don't miss out on a single video from Pete's Ghias, your #1 source for Karmann Ghia DIY and restoration on YouTube, according to me.
It's a waste of money.